So I want to thank the Service Planning Committee for asking me to do this reprieve of my academic symposium presentation from last spring. While I'm at thanking people, I also want to thank people like John Muir and Teddy Roosevelt at the Vista Point and Yosemite Park, and again, without their foresight and hard work, and that of many others, to preserve our beautiful natural wonders in this country, we wouldn't have them to enjoy like we do today. I'm also going to thank, I taught a course called Gen 101, General Education. It's something we have our freshmen take when they come to Marion, and they helped me put together this presentation. I worked a lot on critical thinking, and so we can break down our elements of thinking using kind of this chart. So things have to be in context, and one thing that's important is to understand concepts, and I kind of asked them, what should we have in this presentation, things like that, and several of them, I played music for them, and they said, write a song for it. So I'm going to start off. It was kind of nice because the song just kind of turned into this presentation. So I'll sing through the song, and then kind of each slide is a line of the song. But a concept that is useful to understand the song is Cassandra is a character in Greek mythology, and she's blessed with the ability to see the future, but cursed because no one would listen to her. So my bass accompanist would come up here, find that song, and it's called The New American Dream. Before I moved to Fond du Lac, I drove a great big van to spend some time with family and see this wondrous land. And then I came to Marion, and you would not believe, I heard the world screaming and then began to see. I don't wanna be Cassandra crying out the end is near, but the world's getting crowded and the weather's getting I found a great new passion that helped to save the world, opening up our young minds with environmental science. How fast the world is changing as the population grows. I see the need for us to find a new balance. I don't wanna be Cassandra crying out the end is near, but the world's getting crowded and the weather's getting We got a problem of climate change that's heating up the world. But just remember that problems are opportunities. We need to change the way we live and change the way we think to make the new American dream sustainability. Gonna take a lot of hard work and love of fellow man to make sustainability the new American dream. To make sustainability the new American dream. To make sustainability the new American dream. Okay, so there I am back in 2000 in my GMC van on a trip around the west with my family. Right up front, I'll confess to my probably biggest eco-sin right now is I love to travel with my family and visit family members around the country and see the beautiful wonders of America. The mountains and the ocean, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. Along the way, we've met a lot of wonderful souls with love for the environment, and have seen the wonders of our civilization. As I sang in the song, I don't want to be Cassandra, I don't want to come across as an eco-extremist and say that oil and coal companies are evil and we have to give up the comforts of today's societies. We are all entitled to make the most of our human experience. What I do want to do is nudge people to move towards a more sustainable and ultimately what I think would be a more fulfilling way of life. When I followed my wife to Fond du Lac in 2002, I wasn't sure what I would do, but I did have a desire to do something involved with the environment. I got the perfect opportunity when I was hired by Marion to teach environmental science. As a former chemical and medical device engineer, I really had to do a lot of learning, but it was an area I really had a passion for and found it a great calling. So as I learned, I heard the world screaming. Environmental science can be overwhelming and confusing because you're immersed in so many problems. But on the flip side, it can be very inspiring when you hear about yesterday's environmental victories and tomorrow's solutions. When we think of environmental issues, the one that comes to mind the most is global warming due to the greenhouse effect. Back in my GMC van days, I understood the premise that the release of carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels is trapping more heat in the atmosphere, warming the planet, and leading to changes in the climate. What I did not appreciate back then was that this effect was nonlinear. I heard the world screaming refers to the effect of positive feedbacks on the global systems. By the time I was in high school, the summer extent of the ice cap still connected the ice cap to northern Siberia. Now look at all the open water where there used to be ice. This leads to the following positive feedbacks that exacerbate global warming. One is less reflected radiation. Anytime you have made the mistake of wearing a black shirt on a hot sunny day, you can understand how the dark ocean will absorb more heat. Another is the melting of the permafrost, frozen organic material under the Arctic tundra. When it melts, it will be broken down by soil bacteria, and more carbon dioxide will be released into the atmosphere, thus increasing the warming. Warming oceans can lead to a methane belch, where a frozen form of methane trapped in the oceans could melt and be released in the atmosphere. The methane would have a similar effect to carbon dioxide to warm the atmosphere. There's evidence of this happening in the fossil records. Potential for drastic climate change was the scream that made me see. As I said, I don't want to be Cassandra, but the world is getting crowded. Here's a plot of world population since the last ice age. You can see that since the Industrial Revolution, we're experiencing exponential growth. The issue with this growth is carrying capacity. Many of you have probably taken an environmental footprint survey, and you learned from the results that if everyone lived the life of an average American, it would take over 4 Earths to provide the renewable resources to sustain people's demands.
Wow.
The reason the world population is sustaining itself now is due to its dependence on non-renewable fossil fuels, but that won't last forever. As far as the weather getting weird goes, it is very interesting how the media is treating climate change. I once heard a U.S. congressman state something along the lines of, if I had a child with a sickness, would I believe the 97% of doctors that agree with the diagnosis or the 3% that don't? As we try to teach critical thinking at Marion, we always stress to look at credible sources. It was interesting when I was trying to find the 97% statistic, what sites come up. Immediately after the Wikipedia entry on the percent of scientists that accept the theory of anthropogenic, man-caused climate change, is one that talks about scientists that oppose the theory. Hard to say you can find truth in Wikipedia. Then we have a Forbes site that came up saying, peer-reviewed survey finds majority of scientists skeptical of global warming crisis. Then there were 3 websites discounting the Forbes article. And finally, the NASA site that had the original data. Some may say that the NASA site may not have any more trustworthiness than any other site. I would argue that it is more trustworthy because the evidence it uses in drawing conclusions has been gathered through the use of the scientific method. The same method that has been used to develop all the wonderful things we rely on each day, such as computers and smartphones. The evidence has been peer-reviewed and thoroughly questioned by experts, which has led to a scientific consensus. As with any scientific endeavor, we may find new understandings as more work is done. If you search, the evidence is out there that the weather is indeed getting weird. Moving on to the next verse of the song, I love the way our Office of University Relations placed me on our Marian website. Inspired to change the world.
Awesome.
So it's been really gratifying to be able to give my classes some wonderful experiences in the environment. A couple of these pictures are from working on segments of the National Ice Age Trail that will eventually extend 1,000 miles through Wisconsin across the terminal moraine of the last ice age. It's really neat to get the students involved in something that people will hopefully be able to enjoy for thousands of years to come. Another local project we've worked on is the Fond du Lac Greenway behind the South Pick and Save and cleaning up the Fond du Lac River. The Greenway is a wonderful place in Fond du Lac to escape for a walk in the woods without leaving the city, and it's been great to expose students to work they can do near home to preserve a little slice of nature. As I said, I love being an environmental educator and have found great inspiration from this quote by Baba Di Um. Read that. It really puts the importance of environmental education into perspective. So currently the human population is experiencing exponential growth. As the study of ecology shows us, this can't go on forever. Eventually populations will reach a certain carrying capacity and then level out. Some believe that the human population has already surpassed this carrying capacity. When the carrying capacity is exceeded, there are two outcomes. One is a drop in population until it drops back below the carrying capacity, so the resources have the ability to renew themselves. It is very common for the size of mature populations to oscillate around this carrying capacity. The other possibility is that the resources were so overused that they lose the ability to replenish themselves. This last graph is for an island where caribou were introduced with no predators to keep them in check. The population grew so fast that the grasses and forbs were gnawed down to bare dirt, which led to the topsoil that sustained the grass being washed away. Thus, the entire caribou population disappeared when vegetation could no longer grow. A lot of smart people have put a lot of effort into looking for ways to keep the human population from succumbing to the fate of the caribou. The concept of eco-municipalities is developed in the natural step. The cities of Bayfield and Ashland, Wisconsin have adopted this approach in decision making. The 4 steps are: A, minimize the use of mineral and fossil fuel resources. There's limit to any of these resources. They're non-renewable, so their long-term use is unsustainable. Minimize the use of synthetic materials, especially those that are persistent. The story of Ray Anderson and his eco-carpet company, Interface Inc., is a great example. Instead of making carpeting that would just get thrown in the landfill, they engineer carpeting so first off, only the worn areas need to be replaced, and what is replaced can be recycled into new products. We need to look at nature's example, how everything in the natural world gets recycled. Biological productivity argues that the wild areas we have left should not be developed. Development should be concentrated in places where it has already occurred, setting boundaries on urban sprawl with smart growth plans and planning communities to minimize driving by locating work and shopping areas near residential areas. And last, equality. For a system to flourish, we need equity in the meeting of human needs, and reasonable limits can be placed on people in order to create equality. Another way to look for balance is the 3 pillars of sustainability. Always remembering that the economy is not independent of the environment, and that any sustainable solution needs consideration of the environmental, social, and economic impacts. The work of Growing Power in Milwaukee is a great example of this. Urban agriculture to improve the lives of people in the city while providing jobs and education, all in a low-cost model that can be exported to cities and developing countries. Starting the last verse of my song and getting back to climate change, Here's a graph showing how the temperature change correlates with atmospheric carbon dioxide over the last 130 years. The increasing carbon dioxide is attributed to burning fossil fuels. Some, such as Bill McKibben and the organization 350.org, have argued that the 350 parts per million is a maximum level that won't cause catastrophic effects, which you can see we surpassed at the turn of the century. About there. Okay, so to put carbon dioxide increase in perspective, I did a quick calculation using information on the size of Lake Winnebago, taken from the overlook, pictures from the overlook by our house, and Department of Energy data on global crude oil usage. The world populations use the amount of oil equivalent to 6 Lake Winnebagos every year. For every gallon of crude oil burned, 20 pounds of carbon dioxide are released into the atmosphere. The total amount of carbon dioxide emissions from man's activities adds up to over 30 gigatons per year. That's a 30 followed by 9 zeros, and a ton is 2,000 pounds. So again, nice perspective as to how much oil we're burning each year. To stay on the positive side, I like to focus on the potential for better conservation and new forms of energy. There are a lot of problems facing the world today, and I encourage young people to look for ways to get involved with being part of the solution. Whether it be solar energy, wind energy, conservation, or sustainable agriculture, there'll be opportunities for people with a passion to pursue. My friends Sarah and Paul, who I'm happy you're here today, are wonderful examples of people that want to make a difference and have started the Shared Seasons Organic Farm and CSA here in Fond du Lac. I'd like to touch on the following ways you can change your lifestyle to become more green. Start with conservation. Save energy by biking, carpooling, buying hybrid and electric vehicles, insulating, turning down the thermostat in winter, and bundling up, doing the opposite in summer. The list can go on and on. Eat less meat. Eating lower in the food chain requires fewer resources. Veganism or vegetarianism may not work for everyone, but has worked great for me. Buy local and organic. Supporting local businesses helps to sustain communities, and organic production reduces the amount of pesticides and fertilizer in the environment. Renewable energy may sound expensive, but is easy to purchase through programs like Second Nature program from Alliant Energy. Just agree to pay about $5 per month more to have your energy use equivalent supplied by renewable sources such as wind and anaerobic digesters. Change public policy. Where to start? It can be simple things. California is considering a ban on plastic bags. New York City a 10-cent charge. These bags require fossil fuels to make, usually have a useful lifetime of 20 minutes, take thousands of years to break down, and end up as litter in so many places. Have a carbon tax to promote more use of renewable energy. Cap and trade work to tackle acid rain. It can work for carbon dioxide emissions. Have environmental regulation included in trade agreements. Allow U.S. companies to compete on a level playing field. Move to amend. A movement to get big money out of politics by negating the Supreme Court rulings that corporations are people and that money equals speech is a great move in that direction. If a constitutional amendment were passed, this will help prevent the polluting industries from having too large of an influence in public opinion. To change the way we live means we have to change the way we think, which can be difficult to imagine. I grew up in Minnesota and was a huge Viking fan. My second favorite team was whoever was playing the Packers. So, a little history, some of you might know. Anybody remember that? Number 10 for the Vikings?
No.
Fran Tarkenton?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't know, is that Bart Starry's chasing down there? But Carl Eller and Alan Page, again, boyhood heroes. So again, I was deep set in being a Viking fan, but
Full pack.
things have changed. As I was biting into a bratwurst, luckily before I was a vegetarian, all of a sudden I was elevated into packagum, and life has been much better since. I have something fun to watch this afternoon. As a Vikings fan.
I don't know if it'll be fun though.
Oh, yeah. To continue with this theme, I set the song Waking Up by Peter Mayer to some slides. With lyric, Waking Up from the American Dream, I couldn't imagine a more fitting song for this presentation.
Last night I was dreaming I was in my GMC. Was feeling kind of empty because it was just a 93. So I filled it full of fossils from the bosom of the earth, which I burned up quite a lot of on my long commute to work. Where I worked at what I hated just to keep up with the bills, which I paid to meet the rising cost of feeling unfulfilled, which I felt at every moment with occasional respite, like the times that I go shopping or watch TV shows at night. But I'm waking up. I'm waking up. Waking up, American dream. Last night I was dreaming of the one eternal hope that my life would be improved if the economy would grow, which already was a monster on a mission to consume. It was eating almost everything and running out of room, and it whispered to me, "Hey mister, here's some products that you need. The standard of your living is too low," and I agreed. So I got myself a credit card with not a penny down, a long ride and the not-so-merry money go round. But I'm waking up. I'm waking up. I'm waking up. Yeah, the world was like an Amico, and I said, fill her up. The house, a car, a VCR, lawn, and all that stuff. But I got a nagging notion that enough did not exist. And at the end of every day, I'd wonder, is this all there is? And someone said, hey, you already got 10 times more than the rest. And 6 billion other people want the little that's still left. But I snapped, it's a free country. My rights, it's mine to keep it. By the way, who do I pay to take away this garbage here? All I ever wanted was a smidgen of the pie, some comfort and security and good things for my kids, and okay to please the neighbors and my ego while I did. Anyway, it's great to be awake and feeling satisfied, seeking out the simple and the deeper things in life, giving to the world instead of hoarding it for me. Well, I guess I'm not too excited about falling back to sleep. As crazy as it was, hey, was it a dream or not? Just promise that you'll save me if I ever start to nod. Put no-nos in my coffee, throw me outside in the cold, just don't ever say okay now. Back to bed you go, cause I'm waking up. I'm waking up. I'm waking up. The
So you did already order our tickets for Peter Mayer's?
I did.
And make that service. Okay, so we're
Carpool.
oh, need to switch to slideshow.
We did.
Oh, no, I still,
Okay. This last one?
I'm not more.